Hey folks, this is Kelani. One of the topics that often comes up when people are taking a nice long rose-tinted trip down memory lane is World PvP. Oh, how World PvP was so much better during Vanilla WoW. World PvP was so much better during the Burning Crusade. Oh, World PvP was... You get the idea. While nostalgia probably plays into things quite heavily, it's no lie that World PvP has certainly taken a back seat for quite a while now. You'd be lucky if you actually found yourself on a server which could facilitate some decent World PvP. For the most part, servers are all Horde or all Alliance. A balanced server really is a bit of a unicorn these days, which probably doesn't help anything when it comes to people wanting to bash in some skulls while leveling, doing world quests, or just farting around. This expansion is supposed to be about heavy conflict between the Horde and the Alliance. Faction tensions are rising, the friction might set a few more trees on fire, and World PvP might just make a stunning comeback thanks to a few changes to the way PvP is going to work in Battle for Azeroth. I've played around on the beta a little more than I probably should have, and I can honestly say the most fun I've had so far is testing out these PvP changes. I truly think a lot of players will enjoy the new war mode once they get a glimpse of how things are going to play out, and I hope a lot of you will give it a shot when you can, either during beta or when Battle for Azeroth finally releases. So let's have a look at what's changed to PvP and how the new war mode might revitalise a long lost pastime. Remember, this is all beta footage, so everything is still subject to change and may not reflect the finished product. So first things first, War Mode. What is it, what does it do, and how can I turn it on? War Mode is the new open world PvP toggle option. If you turn it on, you'll be auto-flagged for PvP, and any zone you enter will include players from all over your region who also have turned on War Mode. That means both Horde and Alliance players will be smashed together, so some fighting can actually take place. It doesn't matter if you're a Horde-only server or an Alliance-only server, when you turn War Mode on, you basically abandon all ties to your server. You'll be matched with random people out in the world from a variety of servers, and your server PvP tag doesn't mean anything anymore. If you're on a PvE server but turn War Mode on, you're basically on a PvP server, just with decent balancing. Hopefully these War Mode shards will be relatively balanced to keep both factions healthy and happy so they can slaughter each other to their heart's content. To turn War Mode on, open up your Talents menu and you can find War Mode to the bottom right, just below your new PvP Talents section. We'll get to those in a little bit. You can only turn War Mode on and off in Orgrimmar or Stormwind. That's pretty significant because if you turn War Mode on and leave your capital, you're in War Mode until you turn it back off, which you can only do if you return to your capital. No running off to a random inn and turning War Mode off, no running away and waiting 5 minutes for your PvP flag to drop off. If you opt into War Mode, you're staying in War Mode until you go out of your way to turn it off again. I love that it works this way, and I'm sure it makes things easier to sort you into War Mode and non-War Mode servers or shards as well. If you could turn it off and on at any inn, you'd be phasing across shards constantly. I'm actually interested to see how this will interact with world quests and the group finder. If you want to join a group, will you be limited by your current War Mode? It doesn't make sense to be able to phase into the same server or shard as someone who has War Mode disabled when you have it enabled. That's going to be an interesting problem for the dev team to solve. What's also interesting is how this expansion is set up. We essentially have 2 islands, one for the Horde and one for the Alliance. You can quest all the way to max level without having to go over to the other side's island, but the war campaign will take you there eventually. That means if you're on Zandalar, World PvP will probably favour the Horde, and if you're on Kulturas, then World PvP will probably favour the Alliance. Not only will you have more of your faction on your faction's island, but you'll also have larger hubs and camps, as well as more of them. That means guards might join in the fun a little more often. You're going to feel like the underdog on the opposite faction's island, which is absolutely fantastic. You should be sneaking around on Kulturas as a Horde player, that's the whole point. You're making a little foothold and slowly creeping out to see what the Alliance is up to, sabotaging their plans, stealing their information and snatching up any Azerite you come across. You should totally feel a bit out of your depth as an Alliance player strolling around Zandalar. Huge troll pyramids and structures blot out the sun, and here you are, trying to complete your spy missions and get away with your lives. I think drawing the faction boundaries in the dirt like this will work to the advantage of this new World PvP system. I'm super excited to see how this all pans out on live. There aren't enough warm bodies to hunt down on the beta right now. But that doesn't mean you have to wait until max level to start hunting down some kills. The war campaign starts at level 112 and takes you to the opposite faction's island more or less straight away, so you could be over there as early as 112 if you really wanted to be. The downside of that is that there really isn't much to do on the other faction's island right at the start. You don't have the same questing hubs as you do on your own island, so you won't really be able to level up in the same way. Chances are people will stick to their own islands for the most part until they hit 120, because part of the allure of the other island is additional world quests, which won't be available until max level anyway. So you might see a few low levels from the opposite faction running around on your island, but chances are most will be 120. Things are working a little weirdly on the beta right now though. I think the whole world scaling thing might be a little bugged because killing a max level character is actually really easy. It's way harder as a level 120 Demon Hunter to kill any level 111 characters. They seem to take way too little damage and deal way too much damage, which just screams of scaling issues. So hopefully that's looked at before the whole thing goes live. It could also be a case of gear and stats though. At 120 your stats will be scaled way back compared to a fresh 110, especially when we go live in August, because 110s will actually be geared instead of wimpy template characters, so hunting down some lobies might not be the walk in the park you think it should be. So War Mode lets you kill each other. That's cool and all, but are there any other perks to turning it on? I'm glad you asked. The first thing you get is a buff called Enlisted, which increases all experience gains by 15% while leveling, and then increases all rewards from world quests by 10% at max level. So straight up, leveling with War Mode on will be significantly faster, and world quests are going to be 10% more rewarding. I doubt anyone won't be turning War Mode on in the first week. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if people actively put together groups to go world questing now, instead of just running into a world quest and looking for a group at that point. You can clear your map together while staying as a group to provide a little bit of extra safety should you run into any roaming bands from the opposite faction. Running around by yourself with War Mode on could be a huge mistake, or maybe extremely thrilling depending on what kind of person you are. That's not the only bonus you get though. You're also marked as a soldier of your faction, and you get the buff Soldier of the Horde or Soldier of the Alliance. The buff grants you 5 conquest points whenever you kill a member of the opposite faction, and 25 conquest points if you kill an assassin of the opposite faction. If you manage to rack up 10 kills without dying, you become an assassin of your faction with 15% increased damage and healing. Not only do those bonuses allow you to take down the enemy faction faster and easier, but those benefits will work towards questing, world quests, and anything else you're doing in the open world. If your entire group manages to become assassins, you're going to be a force to be reckoned with. But then again, if the opposite faction manages to rally together to put you all down, that's a tasty 25 conquest points per head into their pockets. It looks like there's a good chunk of incentive to join in the fun on both sides of the battle. Some people may not know this, but world quests aren't just limited to your island either. When you create a foothold in each of the opposite faction zones, you unlock world quests for that zone, so there is definitely a good reason to venture onto the opposite faction's islands too. You just better be prepared for a bit of a fight if you go over with War Mode turned on. But wait, there's more. If you turn War Mode on, you will always have access to your PvP talents in the open world, so you don't have to wait for someone to hit you before your talents become active, which means you can happily use them to your heart's content for any other PvE activity in the open world, which is pretty fantastic because some of these PvP talents are really awesome. The PvP talent system has pretty much been revamped and works quite differently. Your PvP talents are just above your War Mode button on your talents page. If you can't see them, you probably just need to press the arrow at the top right. PvP talents are separated into 2 types. The first talent gives you 3 options of a PvP trinket, adaptation, or relentless. These are pretty much just copy-paste from the talents we have right now and just changes how you would want your CC removal to work. The other 3 talents are the same thing. I believe each of these bubbles unlocks as you level up from level 1, so you should have access to all of them as a higher level character. Each of these talents is picked from the same group of available PvP talents, so you have this long list and you can pick any 3 you wish. You can tailor your kit to work against magic classes, you can focus more on defense, or you can just pile on the damage. A Demon Hunter PvP talent lets you fly up high into the air and bombard people as you drop down. It's pretty satisfying. PvP talents are restricted in the same way your usual talents are. You need to be in a rest area to change them, or you can use a talent tome. Having an extra 3 talents and the crowd control removal at all times while you have War Mode enabled is really fun and can give you a few extra buttons to push. There's also zero requirements besides your character level, no honor levels to grind or prestige ranks to reach. You'll have your PvP talents right from the get-go. There's also supposed to be little events on War Mode servers which pop up here and there, but I haven't run into any of these in-game yet. Maybe they haven't been implemented, but I believe the idea was to have a special type of world quest like assaulting a garrison or a keep. The Horde has to kill the leader while the Alliance have to defend the fort. That kind of thing. It could add a little variety while questing or doing world quests and give you another reason to cross swords with the opposite faction. I'm honestly really excited for War Mode. It might be the best feature in Battle for Azeroth in my opinion. I can't wait to gather up a group of friends, clear out a few world quests, kill any Alliance we see and hop on over to Kulturest to continue our slaughter. I really hope people take part in the War Mode servers. It's always more fun with more people. I do wonder if there'll be any trouble with world quest camping or specific location camping though. I guess it depends on whether or not those locations are valuable enough to defend for long periods of time, but I guess we'll see how things pan out. It would probably be advantageous in that regard to have different world quests for the Horde and the Alliance, but I don't really see that happening. And that's it for this little preview of the new War Mode and how it's going to work, as well as the PvP talents coming in Battle for Azeroth. What do you think from what you've seen so far? Will you be turning War Mode on or off? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. If you want to join the list of names at the end of every video, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.